to all of you for our third annual TaxonWorks Together event. I think in this third year, we've sort of doubled again the number of participants have signed up. So we'll see how many actually show up, but it is wonderful to see all of you here today. So to start off with just a couple quick logistics for the meeting, and we'll go over these sort of each time we start up a session. Please mute your mic. I think we have that more or less figured out. And if you can, while there are speakers speaking, please also turn off your video chat, unless you've been asked and unmuted to ask a question. If you need to ping any of us, the organizers in particular, we all have this little square bracket SFG in our names, so you can give us a private message or contact us that way if you need to. You're going to see a lot of links in chat. There's a lot of different languages spoken here, and we're going to share a lot of resources as we go. So please do pay attention to the chat. Those links will also be duplicated in our docs document that is going to be shared in the chat as well. So we encourage everyone to use that document to ask questions, etc. So there's many, like I said, there's many different ways to ask questions. It's great if you can do it in the Google Doc that's been shared. This allows us to sort of keep track of it and then keep the Zoom chat as a bit more of a free-flowing personal back and forth. But you can also ask questions in the Zoom chat, and what we'll try to do is copy those from Zoom into the Google chat so that they're not missed. And those will get answered in the background by some of our collaborators, and then maybe in the open sessions as we talk about things. We also have numerous issue trackers. If you're into that kind of thing on our GitHub repositories, you're welcome to ask her any questions there. We have a TaxonWorks chat. We'll share the link to that. You're welcome there. And you can contact us directly, in particular to Debbie Paul. She's our community liaison here in our second year, I guess. And so she's our sort of first point of contact for people coming in.
Hi, everybody.
Person. Yeah. Hi, Debbie. Thanks. She's going to say a little more here at the end. There's a bunch of social ways to contact us. These slides are also accessible, I should say, through the Google Doc link if you want to come back and get the links. We would make one request of folks is that if you do have a GitHub account, please consider starring our projects, in particular TaxonWorks. This can actually make a difference in the kind of resources that GitHub offers us as an open source project. So the rest is sort of up to you. We make official announcements on Twitter. We have a live chat on Gitter. And this year we've had a number of videos posted on YouTube that you can find. We also have an email list that you can sign up to. We've started to add a lot of information at docs.taxonworks.org, and you can go and help, go back there. You can go there to sort of look back and see what other resources are available, and this is a growing, evolving resource for us. Many of you have requested a Sandbox account when you registered. Just a reminder that those Sandboxes are at workshop.taxonworks.org. The instructions were sent by email. Your user account is your email address. To get access, you'll need to request a password reset. Please, 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 I should come back, sorry. Please, please, please don't forget that this is a temporary sandbox. This is not a permanent account. These data will be deleted. This is for playing around and experimenting. So when you use the sandbox, don't fear using it, do what you wish. But remember that this is not a production-ready project. Let's see here. I think I've got a couple more. We'd like to encourage you to think about presenting. We have a little section that gives you 3 minutes and 1 slide. So if you want to present maybe your work, your needs, your thoughts on TaxonWorks, we'd love to hear from you. Contact one of us with the SFG and make a proposal, and we'll get you on the list. I believe Debbie will confirm that this is for Wednesday.
Correct.
We don't have a code of conduct for the meeting, but we do like to point out 3 different things. We are all learning together. We're all figuring out how to best make these kind of meetings work. So the organizers are learning, you're learning, we're all learning together. There are no dumb questions. Please ask them. However, much you think everybody else understands it, it's a certainty that they don't, and it's a certainty that we don't understand it either in many cases. And the last little point is please be kind to one another in the meeting, in chat and in talking. So I'll open it up to the rest of our species file group team to see if you have any questions or would like to add anything to that brief logistics note. And if there's any chat questions that you've saw gone by in the chat or in the Google Doc already, we could try to address those. And then I'll turn it over briefly to Debbie for a poll that we're going to try to run. So Debbie, take it away, and we can just leave it quiet here for a bit in case any questions come up.
Sure, it takes time for those questions, and people have time to take the poll, and then we'll have a look together to open the meeting. So I'm about to launch the poll, and I'll probably leave it open for about 3 minutes or so, maybe. So there we go. This is so we can all get to know each other a little bit. So those of us who are moderating the meeting, we don't get to take the poll. So you'll have to ask us if you want to know. Ah, thanks, Gail. You're right. There isn't. You can put that in the chat if you like. Gail shares, right? There's none of the above. So if that's you.
I think we all teach and learn about biodiversity informatics at some level. So you can click that one.
There you go. Another 30 seconds. I think we're about there. And the poll is closing in 10. All right, then. Shall we see the results? Here we go. Voila. What did we learn, Matt? What do we see here? We have lots of digitizing going on, lots of people who describe taxa.
Yeah, a really nice mix. It's nice to see so many people in all of those categories.
So again, thank you for sharing, because this, of course, gives us a way to know when we're presenting who's in the room, but also a way for all of you to get to know who's here. So. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to take a quick screenshot, y'all. Thanks for the slight pause while I do that. All right, and then take it away, Matt.
All right. Okay, once again, thank you. We've got a fun week here, I hope. This is our third year, as I noted. Last year, we went for 5 days. This year, we're going to go for 3 days. In 2 of those days, in the afternoons, we'll say a little bit more, we're having what we call an unconference. And really, the overall theme of our talks here are to give you a feeling for what TaxonWorks is, where it's going, who uses it, that kind of thing. But we're really hoping to get through those talks quickly so that we can start a conversation with you. Make this a 2-way rather than a 1-way. But to get started, we'll try to do about a half an hour total introduction that hopefully puts us all on the same playing ground, or at least gives us some background as to what TaxonWorks is and does. Many of you have been with us for several years, and this will be somewhat repetitive, but we've tried to add some new things there as well. So, where did my screen go? So in general, though, I just sort of stole the slide from last year's What TaxonWorks Together, and we're more or less trying to do a couple of things. We'd like to promote awareness, as I mentioned. We want to promote understanding what is TaxonWorks, and even more importantly, perhaps what TaxonWorks is not. We need to do many different things in TaxonWorks and as a biodiversity informatics community, and we have limited resources to do those things. So prioritization is an important concept that we want to talk about here. Everything we do is a collaboration. And so how can we help each other from a technical, from a community, social side of things? A big theme of our meeting here is collaboration. And we like to imagine many different things here with our group and with our collaborators, but some of those things are very hard to actually implement. And so a big part of what we try to do here is increase the transparency as to what TaxonWorks is all about and what the species file group, sort of the organization that TaxonWorks is sort of born from, can do. So transparency is an important concept. So for this first talk, we're going to follow sort of a what, where, who, when, how organization. We'll give you a what as to what sort of TaxonWorks is being used for. Try to introduce where you can get access to TaxonWorks. That's one of the first questions we often have. Who's behind TaxonWorks and how is TaxonWorks supported? When can you do something? Last year we tried making a list of priorities, so we're going to go through that priorities review very briefly. And then we're encouraging everyone to sort of think about how TaxonWorks is different from other software, different because it's a new point in time in how these tools get built and evolve. And we sort of leave you with that question, how is TaxonWorks different? So first, a little description, very simplified down as to who uses TaxonWorks. What you see here is each circle on the bottom is a project in TaxonWorks. And the top circle there is a summary across all of the projects. Each color represents a classification as to how TaxonWorks, how the TaxonWorks project was used. So for example, the blue color here is a project that has a lot of nomenclatural data used in naming. And one example of that is the Odonata checklist project that tries to keep a complete list of all the odonate species in the world. An orange project or slice of the pie is a descriptive component. So you may be familiar with character matrices, descriptions of taxa, biological associations, those kind of data. So orange projects like Kojin's, Kojin Kanda's tenebrionid base that he's using to describe the types of tenebrionids have a lot of matrix related data. Green projects make heavy use of the literature and they reference the literature, the past literature. In the Universal Chalcedonidia project, there's over 18,000 references and they're used nearly 500,000 times to link to the data. Purple slices of pie are projects that have georeferences and geospatial data. There's also things like asserted distributions where we track where a taxon has been recorded in the literature according to a gazetteer of data. And the small beetle groups, this is a small project relatively speaking, but they've made an emphasis on some georeferencing of their beetle taxa. Red projects represent digitization efforts. For example, museum collections. The INHS insect collection was moved into TaxonWorks sort of over a year and a half ago. Tommy will say a lot more about that tomorrow in his talk about how we get data from TaxonWorks to GBIF. And of course, you'll see some slices or projects that are very balanced across all data types. The 3i World Akanarhenka database is perhaps one of the richest biodiversity informatics databases in the world, I would argue. Dmitry Dmitriev and over 50 or 60 collaborators, I think, use TaxonWorks to capture all these types of data. So what if we look at what's coming up in the future and what we have migrating in from the past? Here we have 3 instances of TaxonWorks. On the left are what we have from the species file group. These are all projects migrating into TaxonWorks en route. And you can see that they're heavily, they've been around for several decades, and that they have a high number of references. There's a predominantly green slice. In the middle is a list of projects. I should say all of these projects have over 1,000 records, so the smaller projects are not listed here. In the middle, you see more of a diversity. You see a number of red slices of the pie. These are digitization efforts from museums. You'll see some observation-based matrices, and you'll see some that look a lot like the past. On the right there, you see a sandbox. This is where we practice with incoming data sets. And you'll see that there's a lot of interest in digitization efforts. This is where a lot of the sandboxing is coming from. And so maybe we can think about an evolving workbench that serves the different needs in these three different areas. And maybe we can predict that digitization will be important. But it's nice to see how this all can be visualized, and it gives you a nice flavor for who's using TaxonWorks. So you can dive down a little bit further into what TaxonWorks can do. We can encourage you all to visit stats.taxonworks.org, where you see a high-level overview of the concepts of data that we tackle in TaxonWorks. If you want to get a little more technical yet, you can go to docs.taxonworks.org, and for each of those concepts there, you can see the actual data model that has appeared behind that. And this will give you a bit more of an overview of the semantics of the data that can be handled in TaxonWorks. So many of you will initially have the question, how can I get access? The canonical, or sort of the document that you can always go to answer that question, is listed here. It'll be linked to in chat. And there's a number of different ways. You can install TaxonWorks locally. We do our best to make sure that anybody can install it locally, but there are some caveats with that you can read about in the Starter project. We have a number of sandboxes. These are instances where you can go and experiment without any fear of wrecking anything in the system. In fact, we encourage you to wreck things there so that we can make sure that you can't wreck them in public in our production. You can find, if you want to start a new project, a collaborating organization, and we'll say a bit about that, who hosts an instance of TaxonWorks. You can join an existing project with the growing number of projects that are out there, some of which have very large teams, 40, 50 people, all curating together. You can join there. And if you are a member of a institution who has the resources and support, you can serve your own instance of TaxonWorks, which we encourage. So we need to say a little bit more about how TaxonWorks projects are managed. And there's sort of three separate concepts that we want to emphasize: the organizations, software, and services. And those three play off of each other, but it's important to distinguish between all three so that you know what you're getting when you start a project, for example, in TaxonWorks. So one of the examples of software is TaxonWorks. This is open source code. Anybody can access it at the GitHub repository, and anybody is welcome to do whatever they want with that code. Then any organization could, in theory, use that code to do what they want to do with it. But first you need an organization. So the species file group from which TaxonWorks was born is a collaboration of developers, biologists, editors, liaison, and a whole pile of collaborators. We're at the Illinois Natural History Survey under the Prairie Research Institute at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. And you can read more about us at speciesfilegroup.org. I should make sure to say, and you'll hear it again and again, that everything you see here is really a collaboration. It's not just one person. So we have 9 full-time employees that have all made incredible contributions to TaxonWorks and other major software projects, global names architecture, catalog of life, etc. So we are all really a collaboration. So these are some of the faces behind the folks that are here at the meeting. So the intersection of the software and the software and the organization is a collaboration, or you could think of it as a service. And so the species file group hosts TaxonWorks servers. We code TaxonWorks, we fix bugs. We also train, help, educate, and coordinate. We try to grow our community so that we can have more impact and TaxonWorks can have more impact. We do a lot of data handling and migration for people in need, especially for old bespoke projects. And we do science. We are scientists, and we will have traditional taxonomic, systematics, phylogenetic grants as well. There is a sort of document that describes how the species file group in particular manages their production instances. These are sort of the for real instances of TaxonWorks, and that link will come to you in chat, and you can see how we try to communicate that with our collaborators there. So that said, you know a little bit more about TaxonWorks. We can just give you a bit more flavor about what we talked about last year. I'm not going to go through all these. We had both community and technical priorities from last year. These are the community related priorities. We did a lot of work on docs.taxonworks.org. Debbie Paul will give us a talk on that tomorrow, I believe, or maybe it's Wednesday. I can't remember. One of these coming up mornings. We created a new milestone log to help communicate how the species file group is prioritizing, and we did a lot of communication with you, the community, trying to figure out what we should prioritize. There's a number of videos on YouTube, some really wonderful ones, both biological and how to code TaxonWorks that are there. We increase the number of events. We do TaxonWorks support events every week, twice a week, on every other week. So there's always an opportunity to come chat with us. We targeted specific data sets that we want to see in TaxonWorks. And we explored podcasts, but we didn't actually get into. So what does this say? Parts did not, sorry, I'm going to say parts of this slide. Try reloading, reload. I'm missing one slide. Sorry. Let's see this. There we go. From a technical perspective, we spent a lot of work on things that were not quite on this priority list. We really tried to support the needs of an incoming project that we hope joins TaxonWorks. I see Brian's here, the AntWeb project. We have a lot of work to do to meet their needs, but our focus was on trying to get some of the filtering tools that they will need to move over 1 million specimens of digitized ant data into TaxonWorks. And you can come and look at this list here in the slides coming on. So I'm going to leave you with just a slide on thoughts about how TaxonWorks might be different from other software projects that are out there, maybe in the past and current. We really try to emphasize that TaxonWorks is for scientists and developers. So we spend a lot of time trying to make sure the code base is accessible. You can code. We were taxonomists, and now we are developers. Most of us, some of us are just developers, but we would encourage all of you, especially if you're young and upcoming in systematics, to ensure that you know that you can code, right? It is possible to make technical contributions at many different levels. TaxonWorks has a wide data model, as you gathered from the early slides, and we know taxonomists curate specimens, and we know curators discover new observations, and TaxonWorks can help bridge that sort of rich domain of biological information that we can capture. So we acknowledge that there's a lot of contributions that can come from lots of different levels, and TaxonWorks might do a good job of allowing you to play at all those different levels. TaxonWorks, we feel, has excellent scope of semantics, scope of data models, great semantics. It's extensible in many different ways that you'll hear about, and we meet multiple standards in our exports and imports. So it's meets a lot of the important criteria sort of in a modern framework there. We have OTU at the central that essentially lets you do work in the past where you're referencing known concepts, but a lot of us are describing species that are not named yet. And so you need this important concept that you can hang your biological data off of. And that really lets us be both a database that addresses the past data and present data. Let me see here. I see that Tommy's poking at me for time. Hitting 15, yeah, almost got it, Tommy. We think that there's a lot of clever interfaces. That's an evolving thing. Those interfaces are very enabling in a lot of ways, that you'll hear about. They will evolve and continue to change, but we love to think about how to make a better interface, how to make a better curatorial tool. And it's important to note that we are an endowed core team.
Dejo el radio.
So we have a foundation. We have a foundation that supports our 9 full FTE positions. And that found the people that have all employed there and our collaborators collectively have decades of experience behind us. And so that's another nice part about where TaxonWorks is coming from. So quickly overview. This week, you'll hear from me. We'll do a little feature blitz in a second. And then we'll hear, most importantly, from our users, the folks who have their tools in the trenches, so to speak. And they'll really give you what the highlights and the sort of lowlights are about TaxonWorks. And they'll give you a good flavor for what can and can't be done and where it might be headed. Tuesday, we're going to look at how data get out of TaxonWorks. So Tommy's going to give us a talk about getting data to GBIF. We're also going to introduce a number of new software projects that are not TaxonWorks, but that leverage TaxonWorks data to produce multi-entry keys, taxon pages, and more. And then we'll have the unconference where you come with your ideas. We all self-organize and we talk about what people most want to hear. Wednesday, we'll focus on growing the community. We'll have some student presentations. If you are a student and want to present your needs in 3-5 minutes, let us know. There's an opportunity to sneak in there. We're going to highlight some functionality of observation matrices and the kinds of matrices that you can build in TaxonWorks. We'll talk about priorities for 2023, and then we'll also have an unconference session. So I need to say a big thank you, of course, to the Species File Group members, but this community is much larger than just 9 people. Our weekly events have brought in tens, if not over 100 people, I would say, that have brought questions at different times. There's many different users. There's many people who have committed issues, etc. So all of you who are out there and all of you who are first timers here, you are all now part of the community, and a big thanks to all of you for being here today.